Russia is again bringing back its old familiar condition, the rights of Russian speakers in Ukraine. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that restoring the rights of Russians and Russian-speaking people in Ukraine is a necessary condition for a long-term settlement of the war.
Russia will continue to firmly oppose any manifestations of language discrimination and Russophobia wherever they occur.
He also said that protecting and supporting those for whom Russian is their native language remains one of Russia's foreign policy priorities. But how many Ukrainian schools are there in Russia? According to available research, none. And this is in a country where, according to Russia's own 2021 census, more than 884,000 people identify themselves as ethnic Ukrainians. Since the full-scale invasion, international data also records more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees in Russia. So Russia demands rights for Russian speakers in Ukraine, while Ukrainian language, Ukrainian identity, and Ukrainian culture inside Russia are pushed out, erased, or treated as a threat. The Kremlin is also mocking Ukraine's president instead of talking about ending the war. After Vladimir Putin compared Volodymyr Zelenskyy to Rambo and thanked Donald Trump for working on Zelensky's manners, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov repeated the same line. Moscow presents Ukraine's resistance as a performance, but for Kyiv this is not cinema. It is a war for survival, territory and people.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy is trying to behave like the hero of the legendary film Rambo, First Blood, but his attempts to play that role are unsuccessful. Earlier, Vladimir Putin thanked U.S. President Donald Trump for working on Zelensky's manners and said that attempts to constantly portray Rambo, First Blood, are not always appropriate. Zelenskyy does not resemble Rambo. He wants to, but he does not.
And Moscow says it has taken note of a new statements from Washington that the United States is on Ukraine's side. This comes after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Congress that the United States cannot be considered an impartial mediator in the Ukrainian settlement process because Washington is on Kyiv's side.
We take this into account. Naturally, there are different points of view among team members. Some are sincerely trying to contribute to a settlement. Some hold a different position. We see that President Trump sincerely wants to bring the conflict in Ukraine to an end, and we value his political will.
Which is not true, obviously. So why did Zelensky send a public letter to Putin? In an interview with Sky News in London, the Ukrainian president said he wanted to force Putin to stop playing political games. According to Zelensky, the Russian leader had repeatedly claimed in public that he was ready to talk and wanted to end the war, but at the same time accused Kyiv of not being ready. So Zelensky said the letter was meant to put the responsibility back on Moscow. If Putin says publicly he is ready for talks, then he should publicly answer.
I sent him this letter openly. Nobody understands where we are with this war. And it was very important for me, for Americans, not to forget about us. I understand with all the challenges in the Middle East, but this is the biggest war during these 80 years, the biggest in Europe, and that's why so this is so big, so many losses, human lives, we need to stop it. Don't make pauses because of Iran or something else. All the wars are bad, but we don't, we can't find priority. If we speak about the wars, we need to stop them as quick as possible. And it was important. So before my letter, he said several times publicly that he's ready to speak and he wants to stop this war. And he said about it publicly, but he doesn't feel that the readiness of Kyiv. But he always said that Kyiv regime. I think that he's speaking about me, such way. So, but for me, I mean, when I wanted very much to send him that to stop play these games and answer. If it's public letter, he has to answer.
Zelensky also said Ukraine could agree to freeze the current front line if it opens the way to real negotiations. But he made clear this is not about handing territory over to Russia. It is about stopping the fighting where the front line is now and moving the war into diplomacy.
Yes, it's the quickest way. Of course, I want to freeze, not just freeze the conflict, because we want to live in Ukraine, not just stop the war. We want to stop and stop the way when the war will not come back because of some crazy people and etc. if they want to come back with this war after some pauses. So it's not the idea just to freeze, but the quickest way to freeze. And to freeze and move it to diplomatic sector, to diplomacy, to negotiators.
So give Russia what they want in this moment, the land that they have gained.
No. It's not just to give. This to freeze, to stay where we stay.
He also said that Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich, who has previously been involved in informational mediation efforts, had come to Kyiv with a proposal to pass messages between Ukraine and Russia.
He came to Kyiv. He said that he said I have a message direct to you, and I want to get message and take message from you and to give it to Putin. But he said that it has to be silently, without any kind of public messages. I said, look, it's your choice. Okay, for us, it doesn't matter, public or unpublic, but it's always with Russians such way. If they say something has to be between us, it means that tomorrow, not only we will know about it, but it's not the secret. He came and he wanted to give him the message that they are ready that they want to understand what we are ready to do. I said, the question is not about us. You are fighting against us on our territory. And I said to him about Donbass, it was the key message. And I said, no, we will not live and we will not go out from our territory. No, we will not give you a victory such way. And you will not get it.
In London, Zelensky also met with the leaders of Britain, France and Germany. The key issue was further support for Ukraine, especially air defense. The president said Ukraine urgently needs anti-ballistic missiles, while transfers from the United States are moving too slowly. He also stressed that Europe must be part of any future negotiations with Russia, not watching from the side, but represented at the table. And that discussion continued in Nicosia, where EU defense ministers are meeting to talk about Europe's own defense capabilities and what more can be done for Ukraine. EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas said ministers are discussing more support for Kyiv and how to make Europe's defense industries work together.
We are talking about what more can we do to help Ukraine, also how to really make our defense industries work together. This is something that the ministers will discuss. We have different proposals on the table as well, what we can take forward.
Russia hit Kharkiv with the drones overnight. One of the drones struck a postal warehouse, setting off a large fire across about 1,000 square meters. Emergency crews worked at the site through the night. In the past 24 hours, Ukraine says Russia launched more than 9,000 kamikaze drones, carried out 86 airstrikes and dropped 265 guided bombs. For Kharkiv, it is another night under attack and another reminder that Russia's war is still targeting civilian infrastructure. Zelensky met Starmer, Macron and Merz in London to discuss Ukraine's air defense security guarantees and Europe's role in any future talks with Russia. Kyiv says Europe must be at the table, not watching negotiations from the side. The meeting came after another Russian strike on civilians in Zaporizhia region, where 3 people were killed near a bus stop. The message from London was clear that Ukraine needs more air defense, more pressure on Russia, and real guarantees before any ceasefire can work.
Over the past months, our measures have made these shady operations harder, riskier and more costly. For example, France and Sweden recently boarded tankers, and our EU naval operation Irini has begun boarding Shadow Fleet vessels under updated rules of engagement. Every vessel seized, detained or disrupted means less revenue for Russia to finance this war.
Rail traffic in occupied Crimea was thrown into chaos after a drone hit the locomotive of the Moscow-Simferopol passenger train. The Russian-installed authorities say the assistant driver was killed and the driver was injured. Passengers were not reported injured, but the strike did not stop with the one train. Scheduled passenger rail traffic across Crimea was suspended, and passengers from halted trains had to be moved by buses. Crimea was already struggling with the fuel shortages, and now local authorities had to pull buses from regular routes to evacuate stranded rail passengers to Simferopol and Sevastopol. So one drone strike did more than damage a locomotive. It exposed how fragile Russian logistics in occupied Crimea have become. Rail, buses and fuel all hit at once.
Scheduled passenger train traffic in Crimea has been suspended. Overnight, as a result of a drone attack, the locomotive of the Moscow-Simferopol train was damaged. 5 trains heading to Crimea and 4 trains leaving Crimea have been stopped. Passengers from the trains that stopped inside Crimea were evacuated by buses to Simferopol and Sevastopol. There are indeed certain problems. Measures are being taken to ensure that this issue does not have to be raised. Our Ministry of Energy is currently working on it, and a comprehensive set of measures is being developed to address the situation. The most significant aspect is the strike on the passenger train. This is a criminal action committed by the Kiev regime. Undoubtedly, such actions seriously complicate any attempts at a peaceful settlement. Macron, Starmer, and Merz are trying to talk about peace while simultaneously emphasizing their intentions to assist the Kiev regime in producing new types of weapons to continue the war. Isn't it an inconsistency? Isn't it a major contradiction? Isn't it the best demonstration of the true intentions of European capitals?
That's all for now. Thank you for watching.